more meh episode than we're going to be getting to two pretty good ones that I enjoyed. But the burning was okay. Again, another episode that was just meh. Like, one that I somewhat remember, but not one of my favorites. Maybe like it a little bit more than like some of the past couple. It was solid, but again, like I get what they're going with it, but it just wasn't one I'd rank a bit more as one of my favorites. But it still wasn't too bad. We did, of course, have the return of David Puddy in this episode, and Elaine finds out a huge secret about him. What is that secret? Well, something you shouldn't expect. Something you thought you would have caught on to by now, for sure, especially if you've been in an on-again, off-again relationship with the guy. She borrows his car at the start of this episode, and all the presets on his radio were Christian rock stations, to which really surprises Elaine, because we all know Elaine's not religious at all. She doesn't believe in anything, so she's just kind of shocked that this didn't come up sooner in their on-again, off-again relationship. Of course, George suggests that why don't you change the presets, because maybe he never changed them from whoever owned the car before him. So she said maybe just change them and see what happens. So she does. What happens? We'll get back to that in a second. George, meanwhile, though, is he is dealing with, first off, of course, Kruger not looking good as a company, but of course they don't seem to care. George, though, has been making some, good comments in meetings. Then he tries to follow up with something even funnier, and it's not turning out to be pretty funny. So then Jerry mentioned the idea to him about, well, you need to, basically don't go any farther. When you hit your high note, don't go any further. Basically, just, go out on a high note. So what does George do the next meeting? He gets everybody to laugh and goes, "Thank you very much, I'll catch you all later." Gets up and leaves from the meeting. And he did that a couple more times throughout the episode. Feeling good about himself and basically getting up the ladder how he wants to. Except it's not quite the way how he thought it would be once he got towards the top. And why is that? We'll get back to that in a second. Kramer's story in this episode is that him and Mickey got a gig now at a local hospital where they're going to act out diseases for medical students to try to figure out what it is that they have. And Kramer keeps getting gonorrhea. He's not a fan of getting gonorrhea, but he's going to make the best out of it. The first time he did it, he smoked while he did it and was telling these stories and whatnot, and people were able to guess gonorrhea. Well, then Kramer got gonorrhea again a second time, and he wasn't happy about it. So he was trying to get somebody to switch because he already did gonorrhea, but of course they were no one wanted to switch with them. So he ended up showing up at the next session where the students were going to be guessing the diseases with the same thing that Mickey was supposed to be acting out, and him and Mickey got, of course, anytime Mickey's in an episode, him and Kramer have to fight. Which I don't think that happened, though, in the finale, because he was in the finale, which Danny Woodburn remembers a story, which we'll talk about that in one of the clip show reviews, because I'm also going to be incorporating the featurette on the last season called The Last Lap, and what was talked about on that featurette, talk about the last season, of course, how Danny Woodburn thought that had he not ran into Larry David, he didn't think he was going to be in the finale. Which, honestly, he should have, because of, he was definitely a very pretty popular guest star, in my opinion. One of the best guest stars I think they had. I love Mickey. Especially as a small guy who had a scrappy, come on, beat him, come on, put him up, type attitude. He was great. So that happened. The biggest story, I think, in this episode, though, was definitely Jerry dating this girl named Sophie, who gave them the whole "it's me" thing when he answered the phone. And Jerry hated the "it's me." Everybody basically hated the whole "it's me" thing. So he decided one day to call her and give her the "it's me" treatment. And basically when he said "it's me," she thought he was some guy that she knew named Rafe. And then he starts saying, so how's it going with Jerry? And she goes, "Oh, I really like him, but I haven't been able to tell him the tractor story yet. And of course, whenever Jerry thought it was starting to get suspicious, she backed out. He backed out, and then he pretty much he basically just backed out of it, but then he's curious what this tractor story is. So without having Sophie finding out, he tries throwing these hints at her to see if she would tell him the tractor story. Which then, of course, she got weirded out by him and tried to leave. The next time they had a date. Well, I think they were playing chess, I think, when it happened. But as she was leaving, she leaned forward, and I guess Jerry saw part of her back and saw there was a scar. So he thought, oh, maybe she got some type of a scar from riding a tractor or something. Well, at the end of the episode, she reveals, and which of course completely turned Jerry off, and he did the whole, going out on the high note, like, that's it, I'm out. Basically, he was turned off by it. But I guess apparently an old boyfriend was saying that she got gonorrhea from riding on a tractor. Because she revealed that whenever Kramer had, what's it called? Whenever Kramer and Mickey were fighting after the second session, because they both went in with the same disease, and Kramer was supposed to act out gonorrhea again. But she revealed it there that she told the tractor story that her boyfriend thinks she got gonorrhea from riding a tractor, from riding her tractor too much. Which Jerry was completely turned off and just walked out on them and let them all alone in there. And then, of course, George, and I kind of basically went through Jerry's and Kramer's entire story, since they kind of tied together at the end. But George's story tied up whenever, after a while, Kruger kept catching on that George was just walking out of all meetings when he hit his high note. And then Kruger slowly started basically putting all the work on George, and then because Kruger was calling George his man, which George wanted to be the man, but not like this. Even with Kruger, leaving the office and just going to and going out and doing whatever he wanted to do, not getting any work done. But it's not the position George wanted to be in. And Elaine, of course, does change the Christian rock station presets. And, of course, then, next time she used the car, resurrected, as she said. So she finds out, yes, Putty is religious, and Putty thinks that Elaine's going to hell. And when Elaine's, freaking out about it, Putty goes, it's going to be rough. And then Elaine was like, I forgot what Elaine says, don't boss me. This is why you're going to hell. And she goes, you may think I'm going to hell, but you think I am, even though I am not. And then he realized also that Elaine had stolen his Jesus fish. And she said, yeah! And ended up going to see a priest, which I guess since they weren't going to be getting married, then the priest told them that they were both going to hell. So then they both started teasing Putty about going to hell, doing the whatnot. And basically, yeah, I mean, again, it's alright, just not too much really to talk about. Not the most standout episode to me, in my opinion, but it's still fine. A couple fun facts. This episode was dedicated to Lloyd Bridges, who had passed away 9 days before this episode premiered. He was the guy who played, of course, Izzy Mandelbaum in The English Patient and The Blood episodes of Seinfeld, within the later in season 8 and earlier in season 9. What else we got here? Oh, on the second preset in Putty's car, there was a preacher talking about scripture, and of course the voice of the preacher actually was John O'Hurley, who played J. Peterman. That. And of course, the last fun fact is Elaine and the priest are both pointing their fingers up in the air to mock Putty about him going to hell, which was actually the same thing Putty did in the episode The Face Painter, when he goes to the New Jersey Devils hockey game, and of course what he said scared a Roman Catholic priest. And the priest was Father Curtis, who was the same priest that Jerry went to see in the confessional back when he was confronting, was concerned that Dr. Whatley had just converted to Judaism just for the jokes. But that's the burning episode. Next up is the bookstore, which I actually really like that episode. Jerry finds out a secret now about Uncle Leo. That was, of course, concerning. George, of course, gets in trouble for something he does at the bookstore. That, has kept him, what he's doing, flagged. That basically has him hold on to a possession that he does not want to hold on to. And other things happen there. What is it all? We'll talk about it next. Oh, and of course, Kramer's story. What was Elaine's story? I can't remember what it was now. I'll double check before I do the episode. But Kramer's story. Oh, and the one scene. Oh, I know now, actually. We have a little bit of a throwback for Elaine in the next episode. And then Kramer and Newman's latest skid to go into business doesn't work out too well. Why is that? We'll talk about that next. It is pretty funny. So guys, and I also have a personal story regarding that as well. But guys, what are your thoughts on the burning episode? Make sure to leave your guys' thoughts down in the comments section below. And be sure as always to slap a like on the video. Subscribe for more content on my channel and follow me on Twitter as well at DemandAirboy93. Until then guys, I'm catching out. I'll catch y'all later. Have a great rest of your evening. And peace out everybody.